Hello crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I am here with a Slimline one-sheet wonder. I will be making 6 cards, but they will all use this same cutting template, and there'll be 2 different sketches to go with the template. So you'll make 2 cards with 1 piece of paper. I'm going to use 3 pieces of paper and I'll get 6 cards. But it allows me to mix up the patterns because I will be using single-sided paper today. I tend to like double-sided because you can mix up patterns in these sketches, which are a popular way that I make cards. However, it works well with single-sided paper because you could just use the same paper for everything, or you can just make more cards. I am going to be using some stamps from Hello Bluebird. I will tell you about how I color that fox later in the video. You're going to make, as I said, 2 cards with 1 piece of paper. After I pick out my designs, and I did make sure they looked good with the fox because he's kind of orangey, which this is the Really Rainbow paper, Really Rainbow Christmas from Lawn Fawn. So it does work with a variety of colors, but orange can be a little bit hard with Christmas because of the contrast with the red. Anyway, you can go over to the blog in the video description and you'll download a PDF that's right off there. Like I printed off the PDF. It's off to the left there. And so you don't have to pay attention to the measurements that I'm doing here on my cutting or the measurements that if I talk about them out loud. I'm basically going to cut 1/2-inch strips off of the 6x6 paper until I've cut 6 strips and used up 3 inches. And then I'll have a 3x6 inch piece left and I'll cut 2 3x3 squares. Then I'm going to cut some mats for those pieces because I generally think that mats can be helpful. I avoided them a lot earlier in my card making journey, but I've really come to like the way that they add a little bit more presence to pattern paper. And so I tend to include them in my one-sheet wonders, and they're usually about 1/4 inch bigger, but the measurements again will always be on there. I will cut these to then, a Slimline card is not my go-to, but they are 3.5 by 8.5. That's what I find to be the most common size. There are different Slimline sizes, and they do fit in standard business size envelopes, so you don't need the specialty Slimline cards, although specialty Slimline envelopes. But I have been able to find some at some crafty thrift stores near me, so I do like to use those when I can. I want to talk about how I'm going to stamp this sentiment. I have this teeny tiny banner. It's going to be hard to stamp things straight. I'm pulling a sentiment from that same stamp set. This is a Hello Bluebird stamp set for the fox and the sentiment, and I'll link it. I don't remember the name off the top of my head. I have this template here where I've cut all of my favorite banners, or some of my favorite banners because there's plenty, and I'm going to take my die cut and I'm going to place it inside, and that yellow stuff you see behind there is tape. It is low tack painter's tape, and the sticky side is up facing through the holes so that I can place my banner inside of that template and it will hold it in place so that I get a perfectly straight stamping. Since I'll be making 6 cards, I'm going to stamp it 6 times, and therefore it is helpful if I don't have to keep lining it up every time. I just do it once and it works. Of course, you could just stamp it with a stamp block, and that would be perfectly fine too. To Copic color the fox, I am going to be using the W markers and some YR markers. I like that the W markers have a nice light tone to them, but the warmth to me is helpful for critters. I tend to use the C markers, which are the cool grays, when I'm coloring inanimate objects. It's not a hard and fast rule, but just kind of a general. If you only had to get 1 set of grays, I would think, do you like to color animals more or something else? Because if you like animals, I probably lean towards the W's. But I own both, so I mean, eventually, if you really love Copic markers, you'll want to get more and more and more markers. I'm trying to be a little bit more realistic with the fox, so I'm adding in these black legs and black paws. They're not really suggested by the illustrator's lines. They're a little bit more of a stylized fox. And if you look at pictures of foxes, they actually have black in their ears. I think my default for a long time was just to color everything all animals with pink ears, but it's actually pretty uncommon. Usually there's fur in their ears, and so it has more of a different color. I love to just Google pictures of whatever animal I'm coloring, and I don't always make it super accurate, but just to get an idea of what would make it look like it makes sense. I chose some BG markers because I knew it would contrast really nicely with the orange, but it is, again, not a color that's necessarily in the collection. I will pull it in, though, with the matting paper had a little bit more of a blue-green tint. I'm using YR 68, 65, and 61 to color the fox. These are the orange markers, but YR for yellow-red. I do find that I prefer to add some E's, but these ones I had colored a while back before I had seen some people color adding some E09 and E07 into the oranges, and I like how that lends a more realistic look. This is a little brighter than might be realistic for a fox, but still a really cute combination. It's a combination. I used this orange combination for many years as a beginner colorist. It's great for pumpkins as well. And I added very simple shadows. I just decided that all the shadows would basically be on the back of the fox. Shadows don't particularly matter because this is not a scene, so nothing is casting light on him. But in order to make him look interesting, it's good to put shadows just on one side. And too many shadow areas will make it look more flat because you won't have enough room for your light color. So I just generally suggest picking one side. I don't always do that because sometimes if you want him to appear more rounded, it can be good to color both, which is like what I did around his scarf. When I make my One Sheet Wonder cards, I'm usually making several, and so I will tend to do things kind of assembly line, where I will put glue on the back of all of my 3x3 squares and put them then on top of all of their mats and things like that. But for the video, I want to make sure I kind of slow down a bit and show you how the two sketches work. So I placed everything on their mats here, and then I'm going to pop up my fox, but I am using some scrap cardstock. So I will take 2 layers of thick scrap cardstock. Usually when I'm creating my mats, I have a little bit of scrap left over, and I'll do things like cut my sentiment, which I did there. My sentiment strip is from the same cardstock as my mats, and a lot of times I'll glue them together so that I can pop things up a little bit instead of using foam tape, but foam tape works great as well. So here are the 2 different layouts. I could take those 3 strips, center them on the card, and then place the 3x3 square over the center of the strips, or I can place the really thin strips all the way at the top and then put the 3x3 square at the bottom. I realize now I actually didn't mix up the patterns. I always do that, and I didn't this time because I think I wanted to show you that you really can do these with single-sided paper. So that is it for my video today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment or share this video. If you'd like to see more videos about how to use your supplies, such as One Sheet Wonder tutorials, please subscribe and click the bell to get notifications. I will link all the products I can in the video description and link you to my blog where you can download any templates or get more information. For even more inspiration, come find me on Instagram or check out these 2 videos here at the end. Thank you so much for watching and have an amazing day.